Now, before we begin our analysis of the Johnson administration, I just want to point out how lucky you are to have a teacher that actually remembers what it was like.
Am I interrupting something?
Absolutely.
Thank you. If I may have your attention for a moment, the city is sponsoring an essay contest, and one of you is going to win it. One of you will get a certificate of achievement, and we will get our pictures taken with the mayor.
With you and the mayor? Oh, be still my heart.
The essay will consist of 1,000 words on any aspect of the history of New York City. And I know you won't let me down. Can I speak with you? Sure. Mr. Moore, this contest is being sponsored by the mayor's office. Need I say more?
Yeah.
Mayor Koch is sensitive to the problems in the city. He doesn't need criticism from high school kids.
So we should avoid the nursing home crisis, the homeless, Westway, corruption in the taxi industry.
And now you're getting my drift. Get the ball rolling.
So, what are we going to write about?
I'm going to write about the Bronx Zoo.
The art galleries and the museums.
Oh, Central Park. It's the heart of the city.
Why even bother writing anything? We all know Alan's gonna win.
Is that so?
If it's an essay, I usually win.
Except when Darlene beats you.
I think Darlene occasionally shows some talent.
You're right, Alan. You're a real prize winner.
You know, I don't think anybody here is going to win any prizes unless we throw some imagination into this. I mean, you really see New York as just places and things? What about all the people?
There's too many of them. You have to take a number to breathe.
But you're sharing the air with some of the most interesting people in this country.
He's right. This city attracts the cream of the crop.
Yeah, you're all New Yorkers. I mean, why not find out who you are and how you got here? I mean, that would be a prize-winning essay.
Gee, Mr. Moore, sounds a little, far out.
I think we should play it safe.
Yeah.
Do you hear that?
What?
No. It sounds like 50,000 high school students chanting, "I'm going to write about the Statue of Liberty."
I think Mr. Moore's right. I mean, writing about our families is a great way to win. Like, my family, they come from France. My father's side were chefs, and my mother's philosophers.
Let me see if I can guess her family motto. I cook, therefore I am.
Mr. Moore, if we're talking about exciting, dynamic New York families, look no further than the Pincards. Mayflower, Boston Tea Party, then New York. The name is synonymous with the building of the city. You can trace my family's coat of arms back to a county seat in the English Midlands.
Coat of arms.
Yeah, a wasp rampant on a field of mayonnaise.
I understand your anger, Darlene. That's why here in America, my family dropped all that. They felt it was a little too flashy for a classless society.
You mean we don't have to salute you anymore, Alan?
Okay. Anybody else?
I believe I've got him beat, Mr. Moore. I come this close to being a direct descendant of Mary, Queen of Scots.
How close?
I'm a relative of Mary Scott of Queens.
Okay. I tell you what, I am going to make this essay a formal class assignment.
Great. Then we'll kill two birds with one stone.
I've got my grandmother's diary.
That's good. I mean, this could be very interesting. Darlene?
Oh, I'll pass.
Why?
Because I can tell you the whole story now.
Which is?
Once there was a black slave owned by a white man.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Come on, Darlene. We're all a part of this great melting pot. Those of us from high backgrounds and those of us from low. That's what makes this city so great. I think it's kind of beautiful.
Isn't it funny, Alan, how some people from high backgrounds can be so low?
I think you two should fight it out on paper. 1963. Lyndon Johnson began the first in a series of ugly public barbecues on his ranch in Texas. Morning. How's it going?
This is part of the job I hate.
What?
Disciplinary problems. Listen to this one. He walks into the nurse's office and says that he has a sore throat. She turns to get the tongue depressor, and he's all over her, trying to kiss her, to hug her, telling her that he wants her like crazy.
The nurse.
Yeah. It's just awful, Charlie. What am I gonna do about this?
Well, you might try discussing this with his father.
Well, I don't even know if his father's still around.
Yeah. These kids. And it breaks your heart.
What kids? Mr. Cooper, the chemistry teacher.
Come on, move it. If you could get up there to spray it on, you could get up there to scrub it off. Move it. They didn't even spell it right. Which reminds me, Mr. Moore, nothing about graffiti in the essays. No graffiti, no garbage strikes, no gridlock.
No street crime, no organized crime, no white-collar crime.
Now you got it. Mayor doesn't appreciate hearing about things like that.
He lives here. You know, he's bound to hear about it sooner or later.
But not from me.
Morning, everybody. Well, anybody get as far back as their great-great-grandparents?
Wait till you hear this. I found out that my great-grandparents owned a lumber company that supplied a lot of wood for the original Yankee Stadium.
Hey, you know, if it wasn't for my great-uncle, that whole place would have collapsed.
Architect?
Termite control.
This is interesting, Mr. Moore. I'm a mathematician. My father and grandfather were mathematicians, and his father and grandfather were mathematicians. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, it means you're a nerd to the fifth power.
That's right. 5 generations of pocket protectors.
Come on, you guys. I mean, what did you find out?
Check it out. My grandfather came to New York from Lithuania in 1901. Guy started out with a few apples in a pushcart, turned it into a produce market. That's how my mother inherited the fruit business. Then my father blew it all at the track. Goes to show you, one rotten apple.
Oh, there you go. Life in New York. Huh? Janice?
I'm a Lazzarato. We trace our heritage back to a distant branch of the Medici family in Florence, Italy. And it turns out we came from the lost city of Atlantis.
Oh. Darlene?
Why don't we just move along to Captain John Smith? I mean, I'm sure he's dying to tell us about his family's trip over on the Mayflower.
Okay. Alan?
I'm not interested in the assignment.
What?
I'm sorry to hear that because I am interested in the assignment. I gave it, remember?
But I don't want to do the assignment, Mr. Moore.
Why?
Because it's a waste of time. Look, I don't have to prove anything. And besides, I have more important things to do.
I think the Pincard family tree has just been struck by root rot.
Well, what?
Well, I thought I was going to have to deliver my Alan What's Wrong speech, but I see you're one step ahead of me.
This is my oceanography homework. But if it'll make you feel any better, give me the speech. Although I don't think it'll do you any good.
Okay, Alan, let's talk about this problem. Now, of all the kids in my IHP class, you are the most compulsive about doing your assignments well and on time. Now, this one could earn you a prize, and yet you refuse to do it. You want to explain that to me?
Aren't you the one who's always telling us to relax? Goof off once in a while just to see what it's like?
Yeah, but why now?
Why not?
Okay, I guess I have to read you your rights. Work that's not turned in on time earns an automatic C. Work that's not turned in at all earns an F.
Fine.
Alan, if you've uncovered something that's embarrassing...
Don't be ridiculous. I just think it's a frivolous assignment, and I don't have time for it.
Alan! Shh. Darlene, I know you don't want to do this assignment, but I urge you to reconsider.
You're wasting your time.
Damn it, I am not wasting my time. I just told Alan, and I'm telling you, if you don't hand in this assignment, you get an F.
I won't get an F.
Oh, yes, you will.
Mr. Moore, I'm doing the paper. I don't believe in F's.
How's it going?
It's interesting. Have you ever heard of Sally Hemings?
The Sally Hemings?
Yeah. There's always been talk in my family that we're related to her.
You should be researching that.
That's what I'm doing.
Shh. This is library. Discover anything fascinating, Maria?
No, I'm just a typical New Yorker. Come from a long line of single parents. It's kind of a dull story, but it's one I could pass on to my future ex-husband's children.
Thanks. Okay. Alan?
I decided to give it a shot.
Well, I thought you...
I changed my mind. Tell me what you think of it.
What I think of it, it's your family history.
It's a bit rough.
Rough?
I just have to nail down some of the details. I may want to adjust it later on. Or not.
Mr. Moore, I need an extension. Can I have mine in on Monday?
Okay. And remember, everybody, I'm going to read these over the weekend, and Monday we start with the Chicago demonstrations.
Aren't they referred to as the Chicago riots?
Well, we were demonstrating. A large number of people in uniform were rioting. Morning.
Morning.
How was the weekend? Well, here are your essays. They're all very interesting, but it's hard to be objective because they're so personal. So I've decided not to grade these papers.
Mr. Moore, in this class, a paper with no grade is like Sunday in the park without George.
How do I know if it's any good? I mean, what was the point of doing it in the first place?
Maria, are you saying that something is not worth doing unless someone else validates it by putting some meaningless letter of the alphabet in the margin?
Where have you been?
Well, you know how hard you worked on this, the research. I mean, you all know what you put into it. So I've decided to let you grade your own papers. Right away, please. I have to record your grades.
Great. A plus. Plus. Plus.
Mr. Moore, I'm giving myself an A. I'm not completely convinced it's A work, but I'd hate to drag down the class average.
What's wrong, Alan?
Nothing. Everything's fine. It's an A paper. Okay. Make that an F paper.
F?
A or F, either one.
I don't understand.
Okay, F. Poor organization of the facts.
You sure you want to stick with that?
Well, it's basically all there. I just adjusted some of the facts.
In what way did you adjust some of the facts?
I left some out. I changed some around. I would say I lied.
You, want to adjust that?
I want to tell the truth.
Good. Please.
The first pink card arrived from Ireland in the late 1800s.
Don't tell me he was held up in traffic and he missed the Mayflower?
By a couple of 100 years?
Milo Pinkard. All right. Pinkard. He left home when he was 17 during the potato famine. He was poor. He couldn't even find a job at first. There were a lot of signs here that said, no Irish need apply. But eventually he became an apprentice to a bricklayer.
What about the coat of arms?
He sent away for one.
You mean you made all that stuff up?
No. My grandmother did, and she passed it on to my mother, who passed it on to me. The only family heirloom we have is that story. Darlene, I owe you an apology. I was kind of patronizing before I said I was somebody and you were nobody. But I was wrong. We're both nobodies.
You know, Alan, I never thought of you as sensitive before. And now I know why.
Darlene, you have something to read?
Can't I just hand it in? I mean, you'll have it in writing, and isn't that the assignment?
Not anymore. I think we need to hear it now.
I learned from my great
Please.
I learned from my great-grandmother that she was descended from slaves who'd been freed in the early part of the 19th century, long before the Civil War.
See? You feel better already, right?
Alan, wait.
My great-grandmother said that she'd been named after her grandmother, whose maiden name she couldn't remember. But her death notice in the records of the probate court of Ross County, Ohio, gives the name Sarah Hemings.
Who was?
Sarah was the daughter of Madison Hemings. Madison was one of 5 children born to a slave named Sally Hemings.
And?
Well, the father was said to be a powerful white Virginia landowner. Sally and her children were freed by him in his will after his death in 1826.
Darlene, aren't you going to tell us who the powerful white Virginia landholder was?
He was Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. Darlene, I don't know what to say. Congratulations.
For what?
For what? Thomas Jefferson was one of the founding fathers of this country, and apparently of your family. I mean, if I had those credentials, they'd be tattooed on my chest. You should be proud. I admit it. I'm turning green here.
Oh, so you're saying, Alan, I win the snob contest because Thomas Jefferson slept with a distant relative of mine? He owned her, Alan. He could have set her free, but he didn't until after his death. A little late. Am I supposed to be proud of that?
Darlene, I mean, your research is fine up to a point, but that's not the full story of Jefferson and Sally Hemings. I mean, many historians argue that they actually loved one another.
A happy slave love story. No thanks.
But her son, Madison, told the story years later. Now, according to him, after Jefferson's wife died and he was appointed minister to France, he brought Sally to Paris. She was the woman of the house, his companion.
But if Jefferson loved her, how could he keep her as his property?
The times dictated it. I mean, when they came back to America, it would have been impossible for them to live together in Virginia in the same house unless she was legally his slave. Whether she loved him or not is hard to prove. But Sally Hemings got something from that relationship that was crucial to her. Freedom for her children. Her own freedom came after Jefferson died.
Darlene, I really had it wrong.
Look, Alan, I just want to be who I am, and I think you should do the same.
Darlene, I'm not saying I won't get over it.
Look, it's important to know where you came from. But who your ancestors were, whoever they were, isn't who you are now. See, the point of this is, it helps us to understand history if we look at it from there, not just from here. Sally Hemings, a very strong woman who lived with her choices in a difficult situation. And Milo Pinkard. Pinkard. He did build this city, not your way, his way, brick by brick.
It's something to think about, Alan.
Yeah, our own history.
And write it down. Not just the facts either. Because what'll make it interesting for future history students is knowing how you feel about it. And that way, they learn about you as well. All right, let's talk about Richard Nixon's promise of an open presidency.
Mr. Moore, what about your history? What would you write?
Well, I'm the quintessential New Yorker. I wasn't born here. I didn't go to school here. I'm second generation German English, and my parents met in Texas. And I'm from Weiser, Idaho. And here I am. I teach a class with a student from New Delhi, India, and one of Irish peasant stock, and a descendant of Thomas Jefferson. Now, you name me one other city in the United States where that could happen.
Okay, Washington, D.C.
Okay, I'll give you Washington, but Washington has no theater.
The National Theater.
Okay, I'll give you the National Theater. You name me one extraordinary delicatessen.
Delicatessen? Guess what? I won.
Congratulations.
Darlene, I don't know if this will sound convincing or not, but I'm glad you won.
I'm not convinced, Alan.
Neither am I.
So, how did you tie Sally Hemings into the history of New York?
I didn't. I mean, that was a great story, but this was to win.
So, what did you write about?
Well, I combined two themes. Corruption in the building of the Statue of Liberty.
Corruption in the building of the Statue of Liberty. I like it.
Mr. Moore, may I see you a moment?